everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Wakimale in Abuja. Let's begin by letting you know the reactions of the federal government of Nigeria to the advisory from the United States government. The federal government today has condemned the recent travel advisory by the United States of America to its citizens in Nigeria, saying such advisory could cause panic, a needless one, and have adverse economic impact in Nigeria. The United States, a few days ago, warned its citizens in Nigeria of what it tagged an elevated threats to major hotels in the larger cities of Nigeria. The advisory says that the Nigerian security agencies are working to counter the threat. But the Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says such advisory was going to undermine the efforts of the government by making it difficult to attract investors to Nigeria. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, has addressed the nation today and spoken to his Labour Party supporters, members, and obedient movement about his next move. He says he's not getting out of the fray, is in fact saying they are now officially a major opposition to the status quo, I mean the federal government and the ruling party. We'll be hearing more on that tonight and dissect some of the reactions of Mr. Peter Obi on the Supreme Court. He says it's a breach of the confidence and the trust that Nigerians have in the Apex Court. We'll be getting some insight into the legal perspectives of Mr. Obi's stance on the Apex Court. Of course, I'll take you also to Kogi State, one state that you need to look out for in the Saturday's election. The Channel Television, of course, will be on the ground in all of these states, and we have our crew on the ground combing and bringing you up to speed with all of the information, but analysis also will be here right here on Channel Television. And of course, you know what we do with the ERAD, and we give you all of the results on the dashboard as they're coming. So tonight, Kogi State, it seems to be a state that you need to watch out for, and I'll let you know. My guest tonight will be telling us why Kogi State is a state to watch out for in this election. I've got a packed program for you tonight. Stick around with me, everyone, because I need to first and foremost serve you with your political roundup stories.
Justice Inyang Eko of the Federal High Court in Abuja has confirmed the authenticity of the National Youth Service Corps certificate of Governor Peter Umba of Enugu State as validly issued by the NYSC. Delivering judgment, Justice Eko held that the evidence before the court showed that the governor, though was mobilized for NYSC in 2001, completed his service in 2003. According to the court, Governor Umba, midway into his service, sought and after received permission from NYSC to attend the Nigerian Law School and was reinstated into the service in 2003. Still in the court, the suspended Independent National Electoral Commission Resident Electoral Commissioner in Adamawa State, Mr. Hudu Yunusa, has failed to show up in the State High Court in Yola, the state capital, where he was to be arraigned. His absence in court prompted the Prosecution Counsel to ask the judge to order Mr. Yunusa Ari's arrest, a request the court turned down, saying it could not do that without an application from the prosecution. The former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, did not make it to the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory today, despite an order of a trial judge, Justice Olukayode Adeniyi, for the Anti-Graft Agency, EFCC, to produce him in court for hearing of his motion on fundamental rights enforcement. This follows his arrest by the EFCC shortly after his release from the custody of the Department of State Services in late October. The court is now adjourned till Wednesday, November 8th, for hearing of Emefiele's motion and notice and for his counsel to provide additional documents. And the court further reinstates its order of November 2nd for Emefiele's unconditional release or produce him in court on Wednesday. The Court of Appeal, sitting in Abuja, has reserved judgment in the appeal filed by Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf to challenge his removal by the Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal. At the day's proceedings, counsel to the governor, Mr. Wole Olanipeku, asked that the judgment of the tribunal be set aside. Counsel to the APC, Mr. Akin Olujimi, however, countered him, saying the appeal courts stated emphatically that the non-signing of ballots amounted to electoral malpractice. The appeal court panel subsequently reserved judgment on the matter.
Indeed, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get into one of the major stories of today, and that was the moment when Mr. Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the February 2023 presidential election, took to the podium today in Abuja, where he addressed a press conference. He says that the dream for a new Nigeria has not ended with the October 26, 2023 verdict of the Supreme Court, which affirms Mr. Bola Tinubu as the validly elected president of Nigeria. Mr. Obi faulted the judgment of the Apex Court and agreed that the end has come to the legal battle of the last election, but he says he will not be backing down, and now he's declared that it's not the end of the journey, but in fact the beginning, and he's asked Nigerians to now take it as an official notice that they will now form a major opposition in Nigeria. Take a listen to an excerpt of Mr. Obi's press conference today.
Certain legal issues aside, the Supreme Court exhibited a disturbing aversion to public opinion, just as they abandoned its responsibility as court of law and policy. It is therefore with great dismay that I observe that the court's decision contradicts the overwhelming evidence of election rigging, false claim of technical glitch, substantial non-compliance to the rules set by INEC itself, as well as matters of perjury, identity theft, and forgery has been brought to light in course of this election matter. Our young democracy is ultimately the main victim and casualty of the courtroom drama. This judgment amounts to a breach of confidence of Nigerians have in our judiciary. To that extent, it is a show of unreasonable force against the very Nigerian people from whom the power of the Constitution derives. The Supreme Court's ruling may represent the state of the law in 2023, but not present demand for substantive justice. Given the present national circumstance, there is compelling need for a strong political opposition. Going forward, we in Labour Party and the Obedient Movement are now effectively in opposition. We are glad that the nation has heard us loud and clear. We shall now expand the confines of our message of hope to the rest of the country.
Let's now get some insight and some legal perspectives to what Mr. Peter Obi said. He's touched on several issues. So he's also come forward with some recommendations as to how our democratic principles should be shaped, and going forward, what he thinks the nation should focus on is criticize the present state of the running of affairs as it affects issues of cost of governance. I'm being joined tonight by a very senior lawyer, Mr. Wahab Shitu, senior advocate of Nigeria. He joins us live from Lagos. Thank you so much, Leonard Sik, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Tim, for inviting me.
Thank you so much indeed. Let's look at the legal implications or the legal import of what Mr. Peter Obi has said, his own interpretation of the Supreme Court judgment. He said that it's a loss of confidence and the trust in the Nigerian people as espoused in the judgment of the Supreme Court. He said that Nigerians were disappointed and there's a loss of confidence and trust. What do you make of that statement? And what is a summary of your own reading of Mr. Obi's point of view?
Well, Peter Obi is entitled to his opinion. Of my own view and the view of patriotic Nigerians who understand the workings of the law is that his statement, it is a very gross disappointment. My expectation is that Mr. Peter Obi professes to be a Democrat. And if he professes to be a Democrat, then he should know that there are certain fundamentals of the democratic tradition, which includes respect for the rule of law and the independence and autonomy of the judiciary. When the judiciary has made a final pronouncement, when the apex court, a judge as one of the best in Africa, has considered all sides to an issue and pronounced, as a Democrat, the expectation that one will expect from Mr. Peter Obi is that he should live up to his billing as a Democrat by respecting that final outcome of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court considered all 7 issues is still for this determination by the parties, and then resolved all in favor of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The way the court of law function or the judicial function is quite different from the way the public opinion functions. Also quite different from beer parlor gossip or some other sentimental considerations. A court of law functions on the basis of facts as pleaded, on the basis of facts as proved because of proceedings. If all the allegations levied by Peter Obi, the question to ask is, which one of them was proved? Did they need evidence to show that there were malpractices? Did they need evidence to show that there was identity theft or perjury? These are criminal offenses, and the requirement is that you must establish that beyond all reasonable doubt. All lawyers, including the defense lawyers, know and will agree that the apex court, consisting of some of the best legal minds, some of the best jurists, did justice to that case. They resolved the case as presented. The law court is not a substitute for perceived public opinion. You have to lead evidence, you have to prove evidence for the court. An election petition is not something, it is regulated by special rules and procedure. You call it sui generis. You must lead evidence to prove each of the allegations that you make in your petition. And such evidence must be led conclusively, convincingly, with all facts established. The truth is that the petition was poorly drafted. There was no proof to substantiate all the allegations made. And the Supreme Court finally came to the rightful conclusion by declaring that the petition was not established and that all the 7 issues still for termination were not resolved in favor of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Again, we must make this point very clear that when you file a petition, there are rules that you must comply with in order to be able to succeed. You don't rely on the public opinion to prove those facts. You don't rely on sentiments as expressed in public places to prove that. The question is that you must, first of all, lead facts and plead facts. You must be able to lead evidence in proof of your facts, and then those evidence must satisfy the legal requirements to establish whether irregularities, whatever that you want to establish in the election petition must be proof. The expectation of the law. I think the point must also be made clear that the Judas was conducting a very Herculean task. It's not the Judas is not a substitute for the opinion of the or the will of the people.
Mr. Ashitu, if I may jump in quickly, I like to draw your attention to the response of the presidency, which has released statement today, and they have accused Mr. Peter Obi of casting aspersions on the judiciary. The criticism of the Supreme Court judgment, can it be termed or tagged as an aspersion?
Well, every judgment of a court of law can be criticized. But the question is, how do you criticize a judgment of the court of law, such as the Supreme Court? You can only criticize such a judgment on the index of justification. I mean, you must be able to show by justification, by sound legal reasoning, that the judgment was not supported by facts and by the law. The question to ask is, you don't cast aspersions on the Judas, particularly the apex course of the land, on the basis of unfounded allegation, on the basis of unsupported facts. You don't blackmail the judiciary. You don't scandalize the Judas. You don't, because you are only portraying yourself as a bad loser. In a contest, there must be a winner. There must also be a loser in a contest. As a sportsman, you should be able to accept defeat when you have lost. Mr. Peter Obi came not second, he came third. He satisfied with that. He went to the presidential court of appeal tribunal. He lost. He appealed again to the Supreme Court. He lost. Having lost, I think what is required of him is to come out openly and congratulate the winner. That is how a Democrat ought to behave.
Well, but let me come back. Let me come back to some part of what Mr. Peter Obi said. And he said that there is a loss of confidence and trust by the Nigerian people in the position of the Supreme Court. Now, if you look at the valedictory speech of Justice Mohammed Datijo, does it lay credence to Mr. Obi's position about the trust Nigerians have in the judiciary, especially the apex court?
I can tell you for free that by the judgment of the apex court, public confidence has been restored in the apex court. Because we look at the judgments of the apex court, which have found the judgment of the presidential appeal tribunal, you agree with me that that judgment is sound, unassailable, and is consistent. It's a restatement of our law. So when a judgment has followed legal principles, has followed the law, how would that lead to loss of confidence? In fact, I feel very proud of our judges, of our Supreme Court, and majority of members of the profession indeed feel very proud at the outcome as pronounced by the Supreme Court. So Mr. Peter Obi, with due respect to him, is wrong to pass, to try to substitute or replace himself with public opinion. Who's public opinion? The overwhelming public opinion supports this judgment. The overwhelming public opinion is consistent with the view that the election as presented by both Atiku and Peter Obi was a petition, was not proved. And what do you expect the Supreme Court to do when a petition is brought before it and there is no sufficient evidence to establish it? And then we're making reference to His Lordship Honorable Justice Datijo. Honorable Justice Datijo's criticism, a concern expressed was not in relation to the judgment. He didn't criticize the judgment. He didn't fault the judgment in any way. Honorable Datigo could not have even faulted the judge. What he said was in the way of reform of the administration of justice system generally. And those were his opinions. And those were admitted when the judge is retiring from the bench, he makes some observations that was only lead to, reform of the process. He didn't comment about the outcome of the petition as pronounced by the Supreme Court. In fact, he agrees with it. But I think right now, for instance, I agree with Mr. Peter Obi to the extent that there's a need to build a viral opposition. To the ruling government. That is consistent with the democratic tradition. He can sustain whatever opposition he wants to build. He can mobilize for opposition against the policies of the ruling government. Why? But to go to the extent of condemning the Supreme Court because the outcome did not favor him does not portray him, in my view, as a Democrat. A Democrat does not have to be a bad loser. He is suggesting to all of us that he's a bad loser. And it is not for Mr. Peter Obi to say this about the Judas at all, because he has benefited. He is on record to have benefited in the past from this same judiciary.
But if you look at it, Mr. Shitu, you will imagine that Mr. Peter Obi said in his statement today that they've exhausted all legal means. Isn't that the right thing for a Democrat to do?
A Democrat is supposed to exhaust all legal means as he has done and be satisfied with the outcome. What if he have done his way? Would he have said he is disappointed in the Judas? The Judas does not have any obligation to either Mr. President Tinubu, former Vice President Atiku, or Mr. Peter Obi. The allegiance of the Judas is to justice, is to the case as presented by the parties. And let me make it very, very clear. When the Judas is called upon to adjudicate over election dispute, it's a Herculean task. It is when politicians refuse to be bound by the outcome, they feel aggrieved, that they come to the Judas. And so when the Judas undertake such a task, they ought to be applauded, they ought to be commended. There's nothing to suggest. All the 7 issues I can tell you, whether in relation to the status of Federal Capital Territory, don't say the FCT, the citizens of the FCT are special for other citizens of other states. You can also not say that issue of forgery was proved. You can also not say that electronic transmission of results is not mandatory by virtue of our provisions. And we also know that you cannot need evidence to prove malpractices in an election. Two collection agents, you can only use such evidence to polling agents who were eyewitnesses. And then when you allege malpractices, you must also plead particulars of such malpractices. Again, when you fault the results as declared by INEC, because the presumption under the law is that when results are declared by INEC, they are presumed to be authentic. If you not want to show otherwise, you must lead evidence by presenting alternative results of your own as compiled. All of these were not done. And then you cannot also bring fresh evidence at the level of the Supreme Court. Because we have 80 days to prove your petition.
All right, so let me jump in quickly. Mr. Shito, I'd like to take you to this realm of Mr. Peter Obi's argument. And he said, as it stands right now, he doesn't think that the nation is on the right footing and that there will now officially be an opposition. I'd like to know what your views are and the fact that they will not back down. They will go to the Nigerian people and speak to them. What do you make of his position about being an opposition and not getting out of the fray, politically speaking?
That is sanitary. In a democracy, in a vibrant democracy, we must recognize the right for a very vibrant opposition. I'm sure President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and even former Vice President Atiku Abubakar will also concede that for our democracy to thrive, You need a very vibrant, constructive opposition. So what Mr. Peter Obi has said, with respect to developing a very vibrant opposition, is consistent with the fundamentals of the democratic tradition. That is okay. Nobody can criticize him for that. But what anyone will find very despicable, offensive, deplorable, unacceptable, a term by Mr. And it gets. And let me tell you, our justices, in some of the very best continent, even in the Commonwealth, so that some of them are one serving in the World Cup. We have the best judiciary here. People who are detached from the process, people who are willing to deliver justice without finding whose source is guilt. And I think our judiciary should be saluted. Our Supreme Court.
Mr. Shitu, I'd like us to anchor on this note. Mr. Peter Obi also came forward with some suggestions, which include a single term of 5 years for presidency, among several other things. He says that they will campaign and be talking about consumption to production. I'd like you to talk us to the end of your, as your final thought, his proposition on a single 5-year term for a presidency. And those that have suggested also that do not swear in any president until the cases in court have been finalized, like we see in Kenya. So there is an end to litigation before the resumption or assumption of duty of a new president. What do you make of these propositions? Just in about 60 seconds so that we can wrap up this bit.
Okay, I think I agree with you. What we make it for govern all election warning. That is very laudable. And then it's also a suggestion of a single 5-year term. We should realize that there's no way some of these proposals without constitutional amendment. So the way to go for Mr. Peter is for constitutional amendment to be able to actualize some of his proposals. As it is today now, as the Constitution stands today, we have a two-term of 8 years. That is the Constitution. And you cannot change that except. I want to encourage Mr. Peter. He has put on a very impressive show. I never thought that he made. And a lot of people thought it's a fighting state. But the truth is that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu won that election. And that Mr. Peter Obi came for. That has been declared by INEC. That has been fortified by the Central Court. That has been confirmed by the Supreme Court. As it is, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a legitimate president of the duly elected by the Nigerian people. So Mr. Peter Obi is at right. Offer constructive. No one wants us. It's necessary.
All right. Let us say it seems that the audio is pretty much losing you
when
on
it is
this
scandalous.
Well, thank you so much indeed, Mr. Wahab Shitu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for your thoughts and your intervention.
Senior Advocate of Nigeria, not junior. Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
Senior Advocate, that's what I said. I didn't say junior.
I thought you said junior.
No, you never would I say that. Well deserving status in the Nigerian bar. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Wahab Shitu, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
A pleasure. Thank you for inviting.
We're going to break, and when we come back, I'll take you into the world of the race in Kogi State, the jostle for the governorship seat in Kogi State. I'll be speaking with the former deputy governor. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. So much, everyone, for staying with us. 3 elections will be taking place on Saturday, the 11th of November, 2023. One of which is in Kogi State. Of course, we know in Bayelsa and Imo also elections will be holding. In Imo, The incumbent governor is seeking re-election in Kogi State. The incumbent governor is exiting, and there is a jostle for the seat there in Bayelsa State. The incumbent governor is seeking re-election, and there's going to be a tough battle for the #1 seat in this state. Let's get to Kogi State, where it seems things are heating up ahead of Saturday. Let's speak with a former deputy governor of Kogi State, Architect Yomi Awoniyi. Thank you so much indeed, Your Excellency, for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
How much of an anticipation or how much of a significance is this coming election for the people of your state?
I think it's a very, very important one in that after 8 years of Governor Yahaya Bello, we are having the APC trying to make sure that the legacy of the governor is maintained by ensuring that they win this election. And so much work has gone into making sure that happens. The governor has been campaigning with the candidate and members very, very extensively. And the turnout of the people to the campaigns have been very, very encouraging.
I mean, there are those who will say that does the development in your state is a reflective of the kind of leadership that you've had. There are those who will say, generally, in fact, in Nigeria, there's a major leadership problem. And there are those who believe that Kogi State has enormous potential, and the kind of deposit that you have under the ground and the kind of leadership, there is no matching. It doesn't resonate with the people. Their lives and livelihood does not really reflect that kind of enormous wealth that the people have. Do you agree? I mean, it might be an indictment on yourself, you being empowered too as a deputy governor.
Well, I think that assessment is not totally off the mark. The emergence of leadership in Nigeria has always been a major problem, and Kogi State is not excluded. What actually makes you become a leader may not be the things that resonate really with the people. People want development, they want progress, they want better quality of life. But I want to talk specifically to what we have on ground now. As you may know, I'm like 2 months old in the APC.
So you left the PDP?
I left the PDP.
For those who believe that it was because Dino defeated you and you jumped ship. Is that the case?
No, it's not the case. But I don't want to lose this thought about this first question you asked. I don't mind coming back to that later.
No problem.
Gosh, you made me lose this now.
Okay, so let me remind you.
Okay.
So you were talking about the present government and that you are about 2 months old
Yes.
in the APC, and we're talking about leadership and reflections on the life and livelihood of the people.
Yeah, yes. A lot of, there's a desire to make sure that the party wins so that the things that have been started by the present government is continued. Now, you are talking about the question of leadership election in the country. And if we in Kogi feel that we're having the best, I can assure you, I've had the benefit of meeting the APC candidate, Alhaji Usman Ahmed, and he's a wonderful young man. He's had the benefit of being in government. He's understudied Governor Yahaya Bello, and not minding the fact that he may be perceived as a protege of the governor. The gentleman has a mind of his own. He has programs for the state. And a very, very major one was the one you alluded to just now, the extractive part of the industry in the state. He's very, very passionate about mining and the fact that Kogites haven't really reaped the benefits of God's endowment to us. I'm sure Kogi is in for a very good time if and when he gets there.
So it brings me to the question that I was dragging you into the primaries of the PDP, which saw Senator Dino Melaye, your own brother from your senatorial district. And I'll come to the issue of the zoning, which is also controversial. A lot of people from the Okun-speaking part of Kogi State are of the view that there have been such change in what is going on. And those who believe that Dino defeated you roundly, and you could not stand the heat in the room, and that's why you jumped ship and you left the PDP for the APC. Is that right?
That's not correct. That's not the PDP of the primaries of the PDP took place in April this year. And before then, so many things had taken place, which included the local government and state congresses, whereby the delegates emerged from that process. I participated in that very, very extensively from my local government to the state level. And on the day for the state congress, we were all gathered in Lokoja, expecting the people who are coming from Abuja to come and pretend over that process. And the shocker we all got was one of the people in that committee told us very, very pointedly that they are under instruction to make sure that certain delegates are reserved for someone. That was rather very strange. But to cut a very long story short, at the end of the day, the Senator Abdul Ningi committee bastardized and balkanized the delegate list, and 188 delegates who did not emerge from the processes were smuggled into the list of the delegates. In a situation whereby you have 188 out of a field of 734, 188 reserved for a candidate. I mean, you know, that is not a fair game at all. More so, some of these delegates were from my own federal constituency of Yagba West, which predominantly were my people. So, but after all that happened, most of my supporters felt I should withdraw from the race. I said, no, I had to prove a point. So I went into the race, and the results came the way it came. I can tell you that the emergence of the candidate of the PDP was through political subterfuge and chicanery. And that has been what has been the major problem of the PDP today. So people have defected in droves.
So you think that this will affect the chances of the PDP?
I think so. It will affect the chances.
What about Natasha Akpoti winning, and you now see Natasha Akpoti side by side with Dino Melaye and campaigning in that senatorial district? Is it some kind of a boost if there is some kind of a loss like you have described in some other parts?
You see, I'll be very, very frank and tell you this. I think the courts did the right thing. Senator Akpoti, I believe she won that election. Mark you, I was in the PDP then, and she worked very, very hard. She's a very, very dynamic lady. I think she was on your program some days ago. I think going to the Senate is a blessing to her tenacity and to the women folk. I think justice was served. Having said so, all what you see happening now with her going around with a candidate, I think it's what she has to do. She knows that in Kogi Central, the acceptance of the APC candidate is almost total. He's going to clean the Central completely because he's a person who is very well loved, and he comes from that senatorial district. That counts for something. It counts for a lot, as a matter of fact. So we in the APC are not bothered by that at all.
I mean, don't you think maybe the people of your people, the Okon-speaking part, would see you as a betrayer? Your own brother, Dino Melaye, I mean, agree that you are aggrieved that you didn't win the election, and you think that the process was not right. You don't think that they will see you as a betrayer?
I think everybody's entitled to his or her own opinion. I don't see myself as a betrayal. First and foremost, you know, I believe in rotation so much. And for me, as long as the governorship keeps moving from the east to central, maybe it's like parked briefly in the central now, the next port will be Kogi West.
Is it justified now that the same senatorial district asks the incumbent governor now as if the APC wins, it then means that the same senatorial district would have retained that seat for 12 years.
That is the anomaly that we have in Kogi State. We have a situation whereby the Eastern Senatorial District held it for 19 years before, by some divine intervention, it moved to the Central. And I've always believed that the quest to rotate this governorship thing is best achieved through the ruling party. That is one of the reasons that informed my movement to the APC. Because in as much as I also clamored for the governorship to move to the West, the reality on ground today, if you look at the caliber of the candidates we have, they are rich. They are, if we do a SWOT analysis, you know, it will be very, very difficult for them to bring together the type of coalition that they need to win. If the PDP had not sort of gone the way it's gone now, it's completely gone, it's gone into smithereens, I'll tell you. People have decamped. I mean, I was probably among the very last to leave. The next day after the primaries, you had a lot of people who hitherto were Dino's people. They left.
But Dino will tell you that there's still a lot of people who have moved from the APC to his own side.
Well, he's entitled to that, but I don't think that's...
Are you able to tell Dino to his face what you felt about the process?
Absolutely. Immediately after the primaries, Dino told me that I was the first house he was visiting. He came straight from a local jet to my house here, and he apologized, he appealed, because Dino and I, we have a wonderful relationship. I see him as a younger brother. And even with all that has taken place now, I don't blame him per se. I blame the leadership of our party who actively participated in a flawed and useless primaries that has complicated things for us now. It happened in Kogi, it happened in another state in the southeast. That seems to have become the standard practice of our party now. Mess things up for the local chapters. When Edino came to me, I gave him my own read of the whole thing. I said, look, I don't see how you can win this election. And I explained why.
What if Dino wins?
I'll be excited for him, but I'll still remain in the APC.
I mean, what gives you the confidence that the APC, Usman Ododo, can win this election?
Many things. The gentleman has worked with the local governments for like the last 7 years. So as an individual, he's ingratiated himself to the people. He's somebody who is very calm. He's a different species. I think Governor Yaebelu was very, very strategic in supporting him, because they may be of the same party, of the same local government, but they are totally different type of people. He's calm, he's meek, he's a clear thinker, and moreover, the APC has a structure in the state. That was what the PDP too had for it, but that structure is no more now. Yeah, I can tell you, when you have members of the state executive resigning from the party and joining the APC in droves, the woman leader, the treasurer, so many of them.
Well, I mean, it is one thing to win an election. It is whether or not it's in the good and the benefit of the entirety and the citizenry of Kogi State. Is Usman Ododo the kind of leader Kogi needs right now? In your own genuine and truthful mind? No, because I've known you for several years.
Absolutely.
And I know.
You say Usman Ododo is the kind of leader we need now. He falls within the general mold of the type of leader we need. He's experienced. He has worked very, very closely with the government of the day. He belongs to the ruling party. He emerged through their process, and he's the candidate of the ruling party. And I think from my interaction with him, he's clear-headed, and he's somebody who I think is Spartan in his ways, and that is what we need in Kogi now. We need an austere leader, not an ostentatious one.
On the final note, I'd like to know at this point, in all of these that we see going on, we have more than one person from Kogi West, and which is a major factor, a major issue. Are you able to advocate in the APC? Although you are a young member of the APC.
2 months old.
It might be difficult for you to be able to put your feet to the ground, but are you able to say that this is the stake of the Kogi West people? Some of your people who have said they are now being shortchanged.
I'll agree with you. Look, that mindset is not an unreasonable one. Like I said, I strongly believe that the quest for this power, because of the nature of our politics in Kogi State, the quest for becoming a governor in our state through rotation is best achieved from the ruling party. And unfortunately, our members in the APC, they didn't come together and have discussions amongst themselves and present a common front. Everybody went their separate ways.
All right.
So we lost that. But we will make sure that in the new dispensation, things will be done much, much better.
Your Excellency, what did they promise you in the APC?
Absolutely nothing.
So you went with bare hands, and you will be there with in bare hands.
I went with bare hands to contribute my quota to the emergence of the candidate of the party.
Well, if that doesn't happen?
I will still be a member of the APC. I had the good fortune of meeting Mr. President last Thursday. It was a very, very good experience for me. And he was kind enough to tell me that I asked that I'd like to see him again, and he said, sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Architect Yomi Awoni, a former deputy governor in Kogi State, now a member of the APC, leaving his brother Dino Melaye in the PDP. Thank you so much.
My brother for real, yes.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you again.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed myself here. I could make this a habit if you allow me.
No, but you speak very well.
Thank you.
Fine gentleman.
Thank you.
Yomi Awoni, former deputy governor of Kogi State. That's our show for tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm sure I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. God bless Nigeria.